She was just a hotel cleaner until one phone call in flawless Dutch changed everything. He heard it, a billionaire passing by, and stopped in his tracks. The next day she was called into the main office. No explanation. No warning. From mopping floors to sitting across from the hotel's mysterious owner, her life began to shift in ways she never imagined. But what did he really want from her? And why her, of all people? This isn't just a story about luck. It's about secrets, second chances, and a connection no one saw coming. Ready to find out what happens next? The sound of the alarm sliced through the stillness like a buzzsaw. 5 a.m. again. Lena Alvarez reached over to silence her old clock radio, her fingers brushing against its chipped edges. She stared at the cracked ceiling of her tiny studio apartment in Queens. Shadows from the flickering street lamp danced on the peeling paint, reminding her of ghosts she never asked to meet. She exhaled slowly. Another day. Another chance. Dragging herself into the bathroom, she turned on the faucet. As usual, the water was ice cold. The hot line had been broken for weeks. As the chill hit her face, she whispered the mantra her grandmother once taught her in Spanish, then again in English. One day at a time. One step forward. By 6:30 a.m., Lena was already clocking in through the back entrance of the Astoria Grand Hotel, a historic 5-star landmark tucked in Manhattan's Upper East Side. Her name tag read, Housekeeping, Lena. Today she was assigned to the 5th floor. Rooms, hallways, executive lounge, and possibly a shift at the breakfast buffet if they were short-staffed. She worked fast, quiet, invisible, just how they preferred. But Lena Alvarez was not who she appeared to be. She held a degree in foreign languages from Hunter College, top of her class with honors. Fluent in English, French, German, and most recently Dutch, a language she had fallen in love with after a guest lecturer from Amsterdam visited during her senior year. They kept in touch. He mentored her online ever since. Still, life had other plans. Her mother's illness drained everything. Money, energy, dreams. After her passing, Lena was buried in debt. She took the first job she could find, cleaning rooms at the Astoria Grand. But she never stopped learning. Every night after work, Lena would take the Q train to the Brooklyn Public Library and practice her Dutch on the free computers. Grammar drills, listening exercises, vocabulary repetition. This morning felt like any other, until it didn't. While dusting near the penthouse suite, she heard footsteps and instinctively lowered her gaze. 3 men in tailored suits passed her. One of them stood out instantly. Tall, broad-shouldered, silver streaks at his temples, no tie but undeniable presence. Nathan Cross, CEO of Crosslux Holdings, billionaire, hotel owner, the man behind the Astoria Grand. Everyone on staff knew him. They told stories of how he rose from nothing. His obsession with perfection. His legendary silence in the hallways. He was almost mythic. He barely glanced her way. Or so she thought. Later that afternoon, during her break, Lena sat alone in the staff lounge near the courtyard. She was quietly eating rice and beans out of a Tupperware container when her phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Peter van Linde, her Dutch mentor. You passed your certification. Call me. Heart pounding, she stepped into the hallway and called immediately. Did I really pass? She asked in Dutch. Not just passed, Peter laughed. You aced it. Professional fluency level. It's official. Lena couldn't stop smiling. Her eyes welled up with tears. All those early mornings, those long nights at the library, it finally paid off. Still on the phone, still laughing in Dutch, she didn't notice the door behind her creak open. She turned and froze. Nathan Cross stood in the doorway, brows slightly raised. I didn't mean to interrupt, he said in English, stepping into the room. Were you speaking Dutch? She jumped to her feet, fumbling to hang up. Sir. I'm so sorry, I was just on break. It's fine, he interrupted calmly. Where did you learn it? I studied languages in college, sir. It's my passion. She avoided his eyes, suddenly nervous. There was a pause. She braced herself for a warning. But instead he asked, What's your name? Lena Alvarez. He repeated it softly, like testing its rhythm. Lena. Then he nodded. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your lunch. And just like that he walked away. Lena stood there stunned, her heart pounding like a drum. What just happened? She told herself it was nothing. Just a passing curiosity. A strange, random moment. She had no idea her life had already begun to change. The next morning when Lena arrived at work, her supervisor met her at the entrance with a puzzled expression. Human Resources wants to see you. Right now. Lena's stomach dropped. Sure. What did she do? Was it the phone call yesterday? The Dutch conversation? Heart pounding, she walked down the hallway toward the administrative wing, past marble floors she had once polished. She knocked softly on the office door. Come in, a voice called out. Inside, the director of HR, Mrs. Valerie Green, looked up from her desk. Have a seat, Lena. Lena sat down slowly, clutching her hands together to keep them from shaking. I received a very unusual request this morning, Mrs. Green began, her tone unreadable. Mr. Cross has asked that you be reassigned, effective immediately. Lena blinked. Reassigned? Yes. To a new position that's just been created. Assistant in International Guest Relations. It took a moment for the words to register. I'm sorry, what does that mean? It means you'll be working directly with our international guests. Translation support. Hospitality guidance. Cultural coordination. Lena stared at her, stunned. Mrs. Green added, it comes with a significant salary increase. Roughly 3 times what you're currently making. Lena's voice trembled. Is this real? A rare smile crossed Mrs. Green's lips. Very real. Mr. Cross doesn't make random decisions. He said your talents were being wasted where you were. You start today. He'd like to see you in his office after lunch. As Lena walked out of HR, the world around her seemed to shimmer with a strange new energy. The same grand chandeliers, the velvet carpets, even the elevator music. Everything felt different. She wasn't a cleaner anymore. She was something else. She passed by the hallway she used to mop and paused. Her reflection caught in the polished glass made her pause. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the pounding inside. Why her? What had Nathan Cross seen in a hotel cleaner speaking Dutch during lunch? More importantly, what was he really looking for? By noon, Lena stood in front of the staff mirror, no longer dressed in her faded uniform. Instead, she wore a tailored navy skirt, a silk blouse and soft leather heels. Clothes that fit perfectly, like someone had carefully selected them just for her. Her new name tag read, International Guest Relations Associate, Lena Alvarez. He felt like an imposter. Just 2 days ago she was scrubbing floors. Now she was expected to represent the hotel to diplomats and CEOs? Her stomach twisted with nerves. The walk to the executive suite was a blur of luxury. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, expensive art she once dusted. People she used to pass unnoticed now looked at her with raised brows, some stepping aside. No one had ever stepped aside for her before. Outside the suite, a bellhop nodded and opened the door for her. Inside, Nathan stood near the wide windows, phone in hand, staring out at the skyline. When he turned and saw her, his expression softened into something she couldn't read. You look the part, he said, putting the phone down. How does it feel? Lena hesitated. Like I woke up in someone else's life. Nathan chuckled. A quiet, almost wistful sound. Maybe, you're finally waking up in your own. They sat across from each other in sleek leather chairs. He poured coffee for both of them. No assistant, no formalities. Just 2 people in a quiet room above the city. I'll be honest, Nathan said, his voice lower now. I didn't create this position for just anyone. I created it for you. Because I heard something that day, something I couldn't ignore. I realized I've been overlooking talented people just because I never looked beyond the surface. Lena's heart fluttered. She wanted to believe him. But life had taught her to be cautious. Still, something in his voice kept her seated. I need your help, he said. There's a group of Dutch investors arriving this afternoon. They're considering funding our first European expansion. I need someone who understands not just the language, but the people. Lena looked uncertain. But I've never been in a real business negotiation. I don't know the etiquette. I could ruin everything. I'm not hiring you for etiquette, Nathan said firmly. I'm hiring you for empathy. For instinct. Everything else can be taught. What you have can't. The weight of his words silenced her. She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll do my best. That afternoon, Lena stood beside Nathan in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the river. The investors arrived, tall, stern men in expensive suits with guarded expressions. She introduced herself in Dutch. Immediately the room softened. Faces relaxed. Tension lifted. Throughout the meeting she translated smoothly, adapting tone and body language on the fly. At one point a sharp question was thrown at Nathan. A test clearly. Lena stepped in before he could respond, offering an explanation with cultural context. The man who asked it smiled and leaned back. Silent victory. By the end Nathan was beaming. You saved the deal, he whispered as they left. I owe you more than I can ever say. They stepped into the elevator, alone at last. I didn't think I could do it, she admitted, breathless. I did, he said softly. From the moment I heard you speaking Dutch, like it was the most natural thing in the world. A long pause. Then in a quieter voice Nathan added, There's a place I go to when I need to think. Would you come with me tonight? No obligations. Just two people. Lena hesitated, her heart confused. But her voice said yes before her fear could intervene. That evening Nathan picked Lena up in a sleek black car. The ride was quiet, filled with the kind of silence that held more meaning than words ever could. They drove out of the city, the skyline slowly dissolving into the distance. After nearly 40 minutes, they arrived at a secluded rooftop garden. A hidden gem overlooking the river, far from the neon noise of Manhattan. The air was crisp. The stars faint but real. A soft breeze danced through Lena's hair. Do you come here often? She asked quietly. Only when I need to remember who I really am, Nathan replied, his gaze lost in the horizon. Or figure out who I'm becoming. They sat on a wooden bench facing the twinkling lights of the city far below. In their hands, 2 paper cups filled with wine. Nothing fancy. No pretense. Just them. Nathan opened up in a way Lena never expected. He told her about his early days, how he once cleaned hotel rooms himself, in a rundown building not unlike the Astoria Grand. How he built Crosslux Holdings from scratch. How every achievement came with a cost. Time, relationships, even pieces of himself. I've made deals worth millions, he said, his voice low, but none of them ever made me feel what I felt today, watching you. Lena's eyes widened. Why are you telling me this? Because, he said, turning to face her, what we're building between us. It might be the first honest thing I've had in years. The words lingered, raw and electric. She didn't know how to respond. She only knew that for the first time in her life, someone truly saw her. Not just her talent but her essence. Over the next few weeks everything changed. Lena wasn't just assisting anymore. She was advising, interpreting, planning, organizing. She stood beside Nathan in meeting after meeting, not as a subordinate but as a partner. The transformation wasn't just professional. It was personal. She felt it in the way people greeted her now. In the way she walked with quiet confidence. In how she no longer felt like she was sneaking into a world that wasn't hers. Now it was hers. Nathan was no longer just her boss. He became her confidant. Her friend. And, slowly, something deeper. Yet for every victory, every breakthrough, there was still a quiet tremor in her heart. A question that haunted her most at night. What if this all disappears? She tried not to let it show, but Nathan saw it in her eyes, in the way she paused before speaking up, or the way she scanned rooms for judgment she feared would come. He never crossed a line. Never made her feel uncomfortable. And maybe that was what made it harder. The respect. The restraint. The quiet way he let her choose the pace. One night, after a long strategy session, Nathan walked her out of the boardroom. Would you have dinner with me? He asked, voice gentle. Here. No, he said with a smile. At my home. Lena froze. She wasn't sure what to say. But then, she heard herself say yes. The drive was shorter this time, and the destination was not what she expected. Nathan's house wasn't a cold mansion filled with glass and steel. It was a warm, lived-in place tucked into a quiet neighborhood. Shelves full of books. Framed photos of his father. The faint scent of cedar and old memories. And in the kitchen, Nathan himself. Not a chef. No staff. Just him, sleeves rolled, boiling pasta from scratch while humming quietly. It felt surreal. Over dinner, the walls between them crumbled. They didn't talk about mergers or investors. They talked about their parents, their childhoods, the moments that made them who they were. Nathan told her about his father. A janitor who raised him alone and used to dream of opening a hotel. A dream Nathan fulfilled, but never shared. Till now. Lena told him about her mother. The photo she kept taped to her mirror. How every step forward felt like whispering to her memory. I'm doing it, Mom. I'm still standing. After dinner, they sat on the back porch as a light rain began to fall. The night wrapped around them like a secret. Then Nathan broke the silence. I don't know exactly when it happened, he said, not looking at her, but somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as someone I simply admire. And started seeing you as someone I can't imagine life without. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to answer. To speak. But the words weren't easy. Nathan, this is real for me too, she finally whispered. But I've worked so hard to be taken seriously. If people find out, they'll say I was only chosen for one reason. They'll say you didn't belong, he nodded. That it was favoritism. That I gave you something you didn't earn. But you and I will know the truth. He looked at her fully now. And if you choose to walk away, to protect what you've built, I'll understand. But if you stay, I promise no one will ever question your worth. Not while I'm still breathing. In that moment, Lena didn't see a billionaire. She saw a man offering more than love. He was offering partnership, respect, the future. She reached for his hand. I'm not walking away, she said. The next morning, whispers flooded the halls of the Astoria Grand. News had already spread. The Emperor Group had signed a record-breaking partnership with Crosslux Holdings to fund their European expansion. And Lena Alvarez's name was being spoken in every corner of the hotel. She hadn't just helped translate a meeting. She had secured the deal. By noon, an internal memo went out. Lena had been promoted again, this time to Director of International Strategy. But it wasn't just the promotion that caused a stir. It was what followed. In a move that shocked both staff and industry insiders, Nathan Cross, the notoriously private billionaire, publicly introduced Lena not just as a rising executive, but as the woman he was building a future with. Gossip flew. Speculation exploded. Critics muttered. Articles questioned. But Lena didn't care. Because when she looked across the room at him, saw the way he smiled at her like she was the only thing in the world that made sense, she knew what they had was real. And Nathan? He didn't flinch. He stood beside her, proudly, without apology. 6 months later, they stood side by side in Amsterdam, beneath a flurry of camera flashes. Reporters swarmed the red carpet outside the new Crosslux property. A grand opening none of them would ever forget. The girl who once pushed a cleaning cart down those marble halls was now overseeing the launch of an international empire. Her voice was trusted in boardrooms. Her ideas shaped corporate strategy. She mentored rising talent. She led international teams. She moved between languages and cultures like she was born for this. But through it all, she remained Lena, the same girl who whispered to her mother's photo every night. Who knew what it meant to work with tired feet and an empty stomach. She hadn't changed. Not where it counted. That evening, back at their hotel suite overlooking the canals, Lena stood quietly by the window watching boats pass below. Nathan came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? He asked gently. She leaned back against his chest. About everything it took to get here, she whispered. About how I almost gave up, before that one phone call. Before you heard me speaking Dutch. Before any of it. Nathan kissed her temple softly. You never gave up, Lena. Even when no one was watching. A tear slipped down her cheek. And now, she said with a smile, It all feels like a dream. Like it's too good to be true. It's not, he said. You're the most real thing I've ever had. They stood like that for a long time. No words, just breath and heartbeat in quiet gratitude. Then Lena turned to face him. You changed my life, Nathan. No, he replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You changed your own. I just happened to be lucky enough to witness it. Later that night, as they lay in bed under the soft hum of city lights, Lena thought about how fragile life could be. How one decision, one phone call, could alter the entire trajectory of your world. She remembered her grandmother's mantra. One day at a time. One step forward. And how that simple belief had carried her through heartbreak, debt, loneliness, and now into a life filled with meaning, purpose, and yes, love. Because in the end, it wasn't about money or status or titles. It was about being seen, being heard, being chosen not just for what you do, but for who you are. And Nathan had seen her when no one else had. He had heard her voice in a language most people didn't understand, and instead of ignoring it, he followed it. He followed her. And Lena followed that voice inside her, the one that said she could be more. He was more. From the dusty hallways of a five-star hotel, to the highest floors of corporate power, to the arms of the man who once walked by without a word. She had risen. And in doing so, she proved something to every girl who'd ever felt invisible. You don't need a miracle to change your life. Just one moment of courage. Just one voice speaking up. And someone willing to listen.